Honestly, it's just safer to assume at this point that every single faculty member, teacher, or groundskeeper on the DanDaDan High School is an op and a suspect, because whether this has to do with Count Saint Germain allying himself with other faculty members, blackmailing other people to do his bidding, or just the core and fundamental requirement that every single Japanese teacher and faculty member to work at a high school has to be an actual walking human piece of garbage. But no matter what, it's clear that Koki Yukishiro and the Pygmies are not working alone. Last chapter, we were basically in a life or death all-out war between the Pygmies controlled by Koki Yukishiro, the young girl that was being blackmailed by either Count Saint Germain or this faculty member that we meet at the end of the chapter into doing evil deeds for them because of a lewd photo getting out. And during this battle, because the Pygmies are just so tiny and the fact that they go off of the conditions of supernatural fairies, ordinary human beings are unable to see supernatural beings such as fairies just because in ordinary life, society, smartphones, all those annoying things distract us from seeing the magical things in ordinary life. Which means these small little organisms were seconds away from slaughtering Aira and Okarun in brutal ways, to be honest with you, just because no matter what they did to fight back, it's kind of hard and tough to fight an enemy that is so small, whether you are whipping yourself all around, you can't hit them, millions of them surrounding you and making it impossible to do anything. I mean, these millions of Pygmies were like creating complex war machines and doing intense strategies to just make sure Aira and Okarun, even with Aira having her acrobatic silky powers and Okarun's newfound physical prowess, it was nothing in the face of these billions of tiny soldiers. Thankfully though, because the protagonists have unbeatable teamwork, the unstoppable power couple duo of Momo and Okarun were able to turn the tides and honestly almost get Momo into jail and prison for life with an assault charge after throwing a desk nearly inches away from shattering Koki Yukishiro's skull. After getting stitched to almost every situation, almost dying 3 or 4 times, and Momo, Aira, and Okarun doing everything they could to find Koki, Momo managed to figure out that Koki was using a cloth that was stitched by the Pygmies to camouflage next to the big chalkboard in the school. And honestly, that makes sense. With how fast the Pygmies have shown themselves to be able to stitch Okarun and Aira's clothes to the desks and everything, it makes sense that even though as soon as Aira and Okarun came into the door, it was only like 2 seconds after Koki did, the Pygmies would just stitch her up to the wall and you wouldn't even know the difference. Now, after Momo puts in all that work to reveal the Pygmies general, she basically opens a fire extinguisher and sprays it everywhere she can to not just disorientate the army of small little warriors, but also she knows that the Pygmies are gonna do their best to try and continue fighting, or at least that's what she thought, because as soon as Koki is in danger, the Pygmies immediately just give up, no problem. They start unstitching Aira and Okarun, they start waving a white flag in surrender. Honestly, for how violent these things were moments ago, they give up pretty easily. Don't let the fact that they've just given up and stopped being hostile fool you. The war is still on. We may have won the battle, but we've got plenty more things to go, because by the time our protagonists even notice, the Pygmies have not only stitched Koki to a big line of them, but they're on their way to carting her out and getting her away as fast as they can so that way they can fight again another day. Which means this fight never ended. No longer a battle against insane numbers. Now we're right back to that high-speed chase we started a couple chapters ago. The Pygmies aren't trying to hurt anybody, but they are still definitely doing their best to try and save their general, which is definitely questionable considering we know that desk knocked her the fuck out. The Pygmies, instead of attacking or fighting Okarun and Aira, are just tickling them and doing their best to distract them. Meanwhile, on the outside of the room, Gigi, Bamora, and Kintaka are still locked outside of empty space, which is another very weird conundrum because Gigi even mentions that they have plenty of enough spiritual power to enter empty space. There should be no reason why they were locked out of that room, especially considering Okarun barely has spiritual power as far as we know. But I gotta give it to Gigi. For as dumb as he looks and acts, he actually has a very big brain move here, where he goes, okay, if we can't enter this existing empty space, Bamora, if you transform into your kaiju costume, then that will automatically open empty space, which will merge the two empty spaces and we'll just all be in the same realm together, which surprisingly works like a charm. They are able to enter empty space the moment Koki is able to escape the room and start starts flying down the hallway. And as someone pointed out in the comments, and I want to mention here, especially now that we got this small scene with Bamora, empty space has really only shown itself when we're dealing with aliens of any kind of shape or form. It opened with the Serpoans. We got it with the Flatwoods monster, the Kerr invasion. It's almost always aliens, and I can't think of a direct moment where we've been dealing with a yokai and we've entered empty space. Why this is interesting is because if empty space was activated from Koki and the Pygmies, what we know about real-world mythology, Pygmies are supposed to be Greek little tiny creatures that, in my book, I would consider as spirits or yokai, but if they're able to manipulate empty space, they might actually be aliens. Or, at the very least, the real person who's controlling them, since Koki is unconscious, and you could argue that the Pygmies are definitely trying to save her of their own free will. With what we know at the end of the chapter, it's also possible that there might be another ringleader at the top of this whole Pygmy situation. So maybe they're an alien. Again, it's completely possible that Koki has created such a great relationship with the Pygmies, or just the Pygmies are indebted to their master and they are going to work to their best to save them. There's also that huge possibility that if Koki is not controlling the Pygmies, there must be someone else, at least in the school or vicinity, that is. And the Pygmies might generally just be a loan of power to Koki. But we'll get into what that means later, because as the Pygmies are dragging Koki down the hallway, across the ceiling, on the wall, whatever these little guys need to do to get their mission done, which is commendable, Kintaka, the protagonist that every audience member loves, he's their favorite character. I know that's not true, but I gotta try and gas him up when I can. Kintaka, despite everyone hating him, does have a great moment here. And I know everyone doesn't want Kintaka to be a part of the story anymore, but the fact that he pulls out these little nano cells shows that he still has them from the Kerr invasion, turns it into a hoverboard and just starts skating down the hallway and almost catches up to Koki. Kind of commendable. Sure, you could argue that his annoying incel topics of having all of the women now look at him and they can't ignore him, he deserved to get a bat to the face, but maybe not as hard as this girl hit him. Unfortunately, his Cloud9 moment being on top does not last for long, because this woman who is protecting Koki Yukishiro apparently smashes a bat right into Kintaka's mitt and just makes him collapse on the floor. So I actually had to add this part in because I didn't even realize this woman is from chapter 25. She's the school nurse, obviously, by the getup, but she was weird from the very beginning. And apparently, I didn't realize that there have been theories about this woman this whole entire time of being suspect. So the fact that she would show up in empty space, yeah, this is for sure. I'm fully convinced now that the entire faculty of the school have, one, always just been terrible people, or Count Saint Germain has been influencing them from the very beginning. Because there was that whole situation where he was able to easily integrate into the school. Maybe he's always been a part of the school. Maybe he's always, and he just comes and goes, erases people's memories and re-enters people's memories as he sees fit. I have no idea, but I am fully convinced now that we don't have to worry about just the nurse. It's most likely possible that the entire school is in the cahoots. The faculty, at least. It is kids versus adults, for sure. All right, I'm sorry. If this sounds out of order, I apologize. I had to add this in post. Love you. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the review. Gigi is genuinely confused as to who this is. And one, you could just argue that Gigi is kind of new. He's never went to the school nurse before. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me for this woman who is definitely a villain, considering Koki Yukishiro is not being taken away by the Pygmies anymore. In fact, all the Pygmies are gone, and she's hiding behind a little door while the nurse with the bat sits and confronts them. So it's very clear that if she is not a part of this little alliance that Koki has with Count Saint Germain or whatever faculty members are involved, she has, at the very least, decided to take the wrong side in this fight. But it genuinely would just make way more sense to me that this was either the main controller of the Pygmies to begin with. Maybe she was even the person that, again, blackmailed Koki Yukishiro. She was the person in the locker taunting Koki. Or this could all have to do with Count Saint Germain. And I know I keep invoking his name, and he's played small little cameo roles so far by telling us not to run in the hallways. But again, that could play right into Koki's hands because she was able to trap them in empty space by Count Saint Germain giving them those couple extra seconds. Now again, could this just be a piece of shit school faculty member? Because as I said before, from all the anime that I've watched, I think it's pretty clear, cut and dry, that most faculty members at Japanese schools just suck. So the way that Koki Yukishiro is being blackmailed, I'm sure has happened to plenty of Japanese students in the real world. And knowing Tatsu, he loves to bring up the horror in ordinary life settings, and I'm surprised the school hasn't been a setting that he's touched yet. So that would make perfect sense if we were just a bunch of kids going up against the evil faculty members of this terrible high school. Whether she is the one controlling the Pygmies, whether Koki Yukishiro has control of the Pygmies and she is just another asset of Count Saint Germain's gang, or it's something entirely different, I know I'm here for all of it. I want to see Okarun turn up his physical powers yet again. And now that Gigi and Bamora and Kintaka, although he's knocked out, are back involved, I am very excited to see what the next step of this arc is. Are we going to get into an immediately next fight and have Gigi and Bamora kick in gears? Or is this nurse going to be a much bigger problem than we thought in more ways than one? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. I sincerely do appreciate you guys making it all the way to the end. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Check out the main channel too if you want to see some more polished or video essay type content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.